Welcome back, you wonderful people. Today we are going to be working on repairing the rust in the front windshield area of the Buick Skylark. And I have a remake piece which is supposed to be a cut-in, so you cut this top lip and then you just weld it in. But remanufacturers are never exactly perfect. So if you look here on factory, it's a very tight edge and kind of like more squared. Here it's super rounded, so I'm not even going to use that because that's going to require way more work than just leaving this and then fixing the rust holes on my own with my own sheet metal. So I like replacement parts, but replacement parts kind of suck. And I hope I'm not going to want to, I hope I don't regret actually using the bulk of this replacement to like replace all this rust through here. So I'm going to start out with cutting these screws out that are all rusted out. So I'm going to get them cut off, and then I'm going to pick where I'm going to actually cut it out. I already made my marks, so if you're doing something similar to this, you can write on the car, so that way you have your measurements. So like these are weep holes, there's 3 of them. They're 14 inches apart, and they're a 1/2 inch long and 1/8 inch tall. So I drew that out here, which as long as you aren't using Sharpie on a finished piece, it won't matter. Like this is pencil, I'll be able to reference this as long as I want to, and it won't affect anything. So let me get started, and I'll bring you guys back when I figure out where I'm going to actually cut this thing. So right here where this blue line is, where I just drew it, so I'm only going to do a section at a time. I'm not going to cut this whole piece free, or else, kind of like how when I did the trunk clip, which here's the video for it, if you cut the whole thing, this will be free to move up and down, and you won't get it exactly in the right spot. So if you do it in 2 pieces, your center will at least be in the correct spot no matter what, as long as you don't cut this side free until this side is done welding, and then vice versa. You only have to worry about your centers being in the right spot, which over a 2-foot distance is a whole lot more manageable than over a 6-foot distance. So the reason why I put this blue line right here where it's at is it's kind of hard to see in the camera, but there's a transition right there. So I'm just down from it about 1/8 of an inch. So that way I'm not welding in the transition, so I'm not chasing always a transition. And it's still in good steel. So like here's the rusted out steel. I'm still a little away from the rusted out steel. So I'm gonna stick to the bottom side of that Sharpie, and I can always take more if I want to, can't put it back. And then I'm going to go right across here so I don't end up screwing with this at all. Hopefully it stays in its right spot. And then after this is all welded in, I'll deal with this after the fact. Like I'll probably cut right here along this edge and then down, and then this will all have to be handmade. And then I'll continue this side. I noticed when I was drawing the line, these are spots for the chrome to clip into. This hole is not exactly centered, so if you look right up through here, that's kind of where center is. It's off to the side, so I got to pay attention to that when the new piece comes in, that this isn't too long or too short, because this hole is cut into the new piece. So what I was talking about earlier about cutting the whole thing free, so I just got this top piece cut, and you can see how much it flexes, and like I'm barely pushing any at all, especially right through here in the center. It moves a whole lot. Over here on this edge where it's got more contours, it moves a whole lot less. So like see, just that little bit of pushing I did kind of bent it. So actually being able to keep one side locked and the other side, so I can actually still come down here and look across it to make sure it's not doing one of these, to make sure it is flat, is very crucial. So don't make more work for yourself if you don't have to. I'm gonna finish getting this cut out, I'll bring you guys back. Got the piece cut out. Well, another reason why I like to only cut out half at a time was I spent 20 minutes trying to get it out as gentle as I could, but I couldn't really template off this because I lost all my angle, so where it's nice and angled and square, I lost all that. But I tried to keep my front piece for if I do have to try and reuse this. I did my best not to bend or twist it, but see, I didn't do the greatest job because it's bent at the end, but sometimes you can't really save them all. But so I found a quick problem. Before I went and started cutting out my new piece, I went through and quickly cleaned this up with a wire wheel and whatnot, and I found 2 rust holes, so I just went and filled them in. So I'm going to grind those down and then paint this section with port 15. That way later on, which even though I'm going to be welding here, yes, the port 15 will burn off, but like the areas where you can't quite reach later on, because this will be all covered, if it doesn't burn off, hopefully it'll stick around and it won't rust out like how it did previously before, which I'm going to put this car on a rotisserie later after this is all fixed, so I can finish doing the underside of the floor. So hopefully I'll spin the whole car around and I'll have port 15 absolutely splattered all over all the seams. So hopefully this is an unnecessary step. I'm just wasting my time, but if not, hopefully this car will last 150 years. Okay, just got it painted with port 15. Gonna let it dry. While I'm drying, I'm gonna cut out my new piece and roughly get it set in here. So that's gonna take about an hour and a half to dry because it's not a very thick layer. Okay, got the piece cut. So it's kind of like I was saying before, remanufactured pieces are not exactly perfect. So if I set it underneath, which is of course not where it's going, and I kind of line up this side, if you look at it really close, it's kind of hard to do one-handed holding the camera. This corner is less rounded than this sharp corner, and this piece is longer than this piece. So it doesn't actually line up exactly perfect. So I'm gonna have to get it as close as I can, which on this side it's actually way worse. So this side's gonna have to have a lot more finagling. So I'm actually really glad I am not playing with that at all. So like this is way more radiused than this, and this is actually protruded out towards the camera farther than it should be. So I got some bending and some finagling to do. So if I set it up on top, like I was saying earlier, there's a transition right here, which that's where this was supposed to go, but I really don't want to be playing with the transition. So I need to cut about 1/8 of an inch off of the top of this to get close. I clamped this thing down to actually see how close I could get it before I started cutting it and screwed myself. So if you look here at this corner, it is nowhere near where it's supposed to be. Like, not like bend wise, that's still not good at all either, but like if you look, this radius comes down and then there's a point when it should, that point should be way over here. And that's not my inability to cut, it's this piece being 1/2 an inch short. Because if you look right here where this center mark is, here, let me grab a light. So this center mark, which where the chrome goes, where I was talking about earlier, way too bright. There's that center mark. That's about where exactly where it was. And if you look at it, this original piece is way lower than the new piece, which is kind of hard to see because the colors aren't matching, but it's completely different. Well, a trick, now that I got this all clamped down, is I'm going to take a pencil and mark the upper piece. That way when I take this off from my line to the cut edge, it shows me how much I roughly need to take off of this. Never go exactly that amount, so don't take a scribe set and then scribe that exact amount onto your piece, because it'll most likely be wrong, but it'll get you a close reference. Well, it's probably hard for you guys to see, but so here's my pencil line right here, and then here's the edge, so that's about 3/16. And then you come over to this side, here's my pencil line, and here's the edge, about 1/8 of an inch. And then you come over to here, it's a little less, so it's like a 1/16 here. So if I would have just did what I originally said, which was stupid, and take off 1/8, I'd be too low here and still too high there. It's always better to scribe if possible.
Cadillac, high heel boots, and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips, bruised knees. I'm addicted to her, need her touch.
This is best fitted as I can. I mean, it's not like you can see a gap through it or nothing, so it's actually fitted really well. But because these angles are not exactly where they're supposed to be, I'm gonna tag weld all the way through here across, because like it's not flat in some spots. So I got it flat here, which is where I'm gonna start and work my way this way. So I got it exactly flat how I want it. So I'm gonna go every about ½ inch, every ½ inch, and then I'm gonna kind of like flex it into place, which hopefully won't play with this height, because I'll still have it pinned down this way with clamps. And then I'll do the factory spot welds through here, and then this will hopefully flow together, and then I'll have to bend this down and then fix this corner, and then continue the other half, and then deal with that corner too. After 11 minutes and a good bit of anger, I got it roughly close to where I want it, still clamped down. So I'm going to finish welding that out, and then I'll do my spot welds down through here, and then I'll cut out this other piece and get the other piece welded in. Got it fully welded in. I made this side because I expected it to be a huge headache off camera, which all I did was cut this along the top and then down over, basically the new steel, and I just built it in 2 pieces. So I cut out this first little square, tagged it in here, and then I cut out my second square and tagged it in, and then just fully welded it. And kind of flows. It all. So when I was talking about regretting it and maybe just wanting to do it all myself, this is how I would have done it all myself. But so far I'm not regretting it. So far laid pretty well in here. Got this side fully welded. This side I didn't have to remake, which I thought I was going to, or else I would have done that side on camera. So this side's still good, which let me get this brown down and I'll bring you guys back for the final. Okay, we're fully ground down. I've got to do a couple more spots like I was talking about earlier. Right here in this corner, I got to grind down this weld just a little more. My carbide burr is so hot from doing this, so I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna edit this video and throw it out there. So this piece came together actually quite well, better than I expected it to. Got a little fine tuning left, and then when I sandblast it, it'll hopefully completely all disappear. Yeah, I got a little fine tuning right through here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you guys on the next one.